Good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. You are with us for our very first workshop for polishing my personal statement and recommendation letter guidance. My name is Katie Mortimer. I'm the program director here for the Department of Social Work. And I am very excited to welcome you to our first workshop. And just so you know, if you're trying to find chat or trying to pick up a mic, that won't be happening. And that's only happening because we're considering this particular part of our event tonight, the webinar portion. So all of your mics will be muted. There'll be no chat offered at this time. We'd like you to write down your questions for us because you will have a live opportunity to have a breakout session with a faculty who is a part of our review team for files for admissions, who will meet with you and answer your questions in small groups. Please also know that we are recording this event. So if you have any privacy issues about wanting to show your face or how you illustrate your name, please know that we'll be recording tonight. So welcome. And we would like you to envision yourself in full regalia as though you have already been admitted, but tonight is going to be about sharing tips to be able to improve your application to the best of its ability. Our hope is that you will get a chance to look at how you're going to prepare your personal statement, what to avoid, and sort of the do's and don'ts of your personal statement. You will also get the opportunity to really think through your letters of recommendation, what they're about, who you want to pursue, and what kind of process you want to go through to get the best recommendation letter as possible. And then, as I said earlier, we're going to break out into sessions for Q&A with a faculty reviewer. Okay, so that's what we're doing tonight. So first of all, I want to break down a little bit for you about what a personal statement is. This is a really important document in your dossier for your application. You really want this to shine. It's often for many schools, and I'm going to speak somewhat specifically to CSUN and some about just departments of social work and social work schools in general. They look very closely at your personal statement. And often they award the most points to that particular component of your application. So you really want to think it through, which is why we're here tonight. The way in which you communicate to us as a committee and demonstrate your unique ability to fit in our program is a big piece of what this document can do. For CSUN particularly, this is a 6-question opportunity to illustrate both the depth and the breadth of your lived and work experience. So that part of that is how much you've done and how varied you have worked. Lots of folks will ask me questions and ask all of us questions about, you know, I've done nanny work, I've worked in customer service, I'm not sure my Walmart time is really something I'm going to put on, you know, my work into my questions. I disagree. I think you want to show your lived experience in professional atmosphere everywhere. And there's a lot of what we call transferable knowledge in doing customer service, in doing work as a nanny, in doing research assistant work with a faculty, in international work with your church. All of those components is a piece of your breadth and your depth of your lived and work experience. Okay, so here's what the statement needs to provide your reader. You're going to show how you are a fit for the particular program that you are presenting this to. Again, we're going to talk more about the different programs you can look at, but please know that all programs come with a different mission or a particular bent on social work, and year to year that can shift in terms of what's a good fit for them. So what you're trying to do is show your unique ability to be a star in a social work program. It doesn't mean you have to have a particular GPA, or it doesn't mean you have to have this particular experience. It's that you have a holistic view of who you are and what you offer that will make for a successful statement, okay? And ultimately what that means is we need to know about you. We need to understand all of what you bring to the table. I hope that makes some sense. Ooh, did you not all see that before? I hope you did. My apologies if you didn't see that slide. I hope you did. Okay. So here's what committees are looking for in a personal statement. We're looking for your story, right? So something that comes from your personal experience, and it relates to how you're going to be a fit for grad school or for a professional program, and your future profession, how your story is going to show us that you're ready for that experience, that you have a graduate voice, if that makes sense, that the lens you come from is ready to take that next advanced step towards a professional degree, that you have maturity to show, that you have self-knowledge to show, and that you can share with us your purpose and your drive in this work. And it also, it warms our hearts to see that you've done your homework, that you understand our program, that you have a sense of who our faculty are, what our mission is, what our mission statement looks like. Of course, I have lots of funny little stories about how applicants have had the wrong school on their personal statement. They've addressed it to Cal State Long Beach, or they've talked about wanting to be an MFT. So making sure you're polished, that you have catered this towards our program and done your homework about what we stand for, or whatever program you're deciding to invest yourself in applying to. Your ability to follow directions, as simplistic as that may sound, if there are 6 questions, you do all 6 questions. Every year we have folks who don't respond to the questions. They do a sort of creative writing, loose response of their whole person. And you're not going to be able to succeed without responding to the directions we give you. We ask you to do these 6 questions. I know that sounds somewhat rigid, and we love to be able to see the holistic you, but please know that there's a method to our madness. Coming into graduate school in a big university like ours, your ability to really hone into structures and follow those parameters on some level is a piece of what we need to see. And then lastly, and I think this will sound like of course, Katie, but I say this because ultimately it's about taking time and slowing down, that your writing skills and your ability to articulate are crucial. So if you have folks who are social work minded, or have, an ability to help read over your work, or you are just a really good writer yourself, you're going to want to make sure that that comes through in your personal statement. So Jennifer, general overview. Who are the folks who you're writing to? Okay, know your audience. Your statement is going to be read by members of our admissions committee. Typically they're faculty members that are teaching in our program. So you're writing as if a faculty member is the person who's going to receive it, versus friends, family members. And the reason I specify this is because folks will get into sort of like casual conversation in terms of like storytelling, and I love that. But in this particular writing sample, you want to stay formal. You want to stay formal as though it's faculty who are receiving your message. Doesn't mean that you can't have humor or that you can't have personal stories, but that your lens or your language comes from a professional tone. Okay, and then there's what. So what do you want? What do you want to be when you grow up is, of course, kind of a giggle, but the truth is that that's what you're illustrating. I still talk about who I want to be when I grow up. It's the idea of who are you seeing ahead of you in terms of your own professional growth, right? What goals and objectives do you have within academia? What do you have to offer our department? And what do you think our program is going to prepare you for? Do you have research interests? What have you done in your recent history and your longer history that's gotten you prepared for this, right? Folks will talk about the fact that they grew up in foster care and that's informed their passion for child welfare. They'll talk about the fact that because they had a social worker who was really impactful in a hospital setting when a family member was ill, that changed their trajectory because of the way that social worker was able to really connect with and align with and empower their family. These kinds of things that help us understand why this is your passion and your future goal. The next part is about writing down your preparation pieces to be able to make a strong statement or response to each of your questions. Because again, remember there are 6 questions. So each question you're going to be able to sort of carve out which piece of you want to share in each of those different questions. I'm not going to go over questions tonight because we can't help you or what I would call coach or mentor you in each response. What we can do is tell you sort of holistically what we would ask you to do or think about to be able to respond to each question as positively and as strongly as possible. Okay, so what have you done academically to prepare yourself for your goal? Summer research, advanced coursework, shadowed social workers, volunteered here, worked in this mental health setting for this long, went overseas and worked on, you know, Habitat for Humanity, any of those experiences, right? And how have these experiences specifically helped shape you to being ready for social work? And then what experiences help to foster and or confirm that MSW is the program of choice, right? So have you gone and looked at schools? Have you talked to other folks? Have you been in scholarships? I know that we always hear a lot about how alumni are out in the field really shaping people who come to our program, and we love that. We love our alumni, but really it's not that we're invested that you must come to CSUN, although I would love you to come to CSUN. We also are just really dedicated to building our I'm going to call them soldiers for social work. You are agents of change. So getting you in a social work program is also a part of our mission here, is to just really help you to see that as a possibility. What relevant expertise do you possess? So think about, people will say, you know, I'm a computer science major. I'm not really sure that I'm going to get in. Oh, that is not true. We need folks who are good with budgets. We need technology folks. We need folks who are good at history. I love a journalism major. So put in your skill sets that are outside of human services. Please forgive the dog. And put that as a big piece of why it's really relevant that you can be helpful and successful in social work. That is a big piece of what I want you to be able to think of. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so this is where I'm going to ask you to do some homework on all of the programs that you're looking at. Are you looking at our program and why, our institution and why? People will talk about, I'm an alumni out of CSUN. I love CSUN. It's my home school. It's close to home. I love the mission. I love the diversity. But go and look at MSW programs and schools and programs to make sure that that institution works for what you're looking for and how it can really help you to get a better fit in terms of what you're applying for. Sorry about that all. You also want to be able to address the fact that you have some familiarity with the faculty with whom the institution is working. So think about that, looking into who the faculty are, figuring out if you have any research interest in what they're doing. One of the things I can always say about the CSUN Department of Social Work is that we have faculty who really want students working with them. And I don't want to call it an open door policy, but we're really an open program that looks to students to partner and create programs and do writing and be able to do that research and hire them as best we can to keep them involved in our scholarly work. So please know that how you can address those research interests in your personal statement is everything. Okay, a couple more things I want to say to you before I'm going to hand this over to my colleague. So I want you to think about your unique strengths. I want you to think about your leadership qualities. I want you to think about your experience and your academic preparation, okay? All of those pieces are what you're trying to sell in those 6 questions. And sell is really kind of a dirty word, as though you're giving us a false bill of goods. And I don't buy that at all. I think we are not a people who are necessarily comfortable with selling ourselves, but this is about empowering yourself to really sing your praises and show us who you are. And that is a skill set that you're going to need in this field. So feel like you can really push yourself a little bit here, because I'll say this, you know, you're going to hear this a lot. We have fantastic applicants. You're looking to do something that helps us to understand who you are, that makes you unique, different, or remarkable, because we have a lot of applicants who are very qualified. So what is it about your strengths and qualities that are going to help you stand out? Okay. Couple more points to hit, and forgive me if I'm moving fast, y'all, but I want to make sure you get plenty of time with your individual questions. So I want you to think about these 4 components for style. I want you to think about being organized, that you answer the question thoroughly, and that you don't go off mark, you stay considerate or concise in your answer, that you don't exceed the 6 questions or the 7-page maximum. And for any personal statement you're doing, pay attention to that maximum, because technically folks don't have to read after you've gotten to their maximum page. And you wouldn't want to lose their attention to every word that you submit. I also want you to think about being clear. Don't assume your reader understands everything. You may have to give, you know, some breakdown of things. Think about like relevant experiences that illustrate your points. Talk about course titles and think about acronyms as being spelled out so that any reader is able to pick it up without speaking necessarily your technical language. Let's say you are someone who comes out of computer science, that you're making it so that any person out of any discipline could read your statement with comfort and be able to follow your examples and your points. And the last piece is be honest. I know that this may sound like a no-brainer, but I have to say, you don't need to blow up your achievements, just be who you are. And that is always a really important piece because it sticks with you. Your integrity in this document is everything. This is something I like to say to people, being open about obstacles, being open about what's happened when life has hit during your academic road and during your life road. If there has been, you know, struggles with GPA, or you've lost a job, or you've had folks get sick or had tragedies happen, folks will talk about their own lived experience with addictions. They'll talk about their lived experience with family members being deported. All of these pieces are a part of the human experience you've had. And please know that much of what I just talked about aren't mistakes. This is about where has life hit that has made your ability to show up for academia has been rocked a bit, because we want to understand that lived experience. And we understand that life happens, and that's a part of your journey. Okay, couple more components for me before I hand it over. These are many of these are just sort of written items that I want you to be thoughtful of, and I'm just gonna like highlight a few and keep rolling. But luckily this is a recorded evening, so if you need to go back and look at PowerPoints for my explanation, you're gonna be able to look at that recording on our website, and you also will get this PowerPoint sent to you. But for example, careful with grammatical errors. Look at contractions. We don't want to be using contractions in a formalized language, right? Long quotes and cliche phrases. I'm a people person. Every year I hear, I believe children are our future, and Whitney, and it's just in my head. It's not that it's not true that children are our future, it's just that it's cliche. So trying to really think about how to make your writing shine and be authentic to your voice. Think about your conclusion as your chance to really sum up all of the pieces that you bring, okay? So it's sort of like your wrap-up sales pitch, okay? Let them know who you are and proof your work. It's everything. Folks who don't proof their work often lose points where they didn't need to. So as best you can, make sure you have folks who are even outside of our field take a look at your work to make sure that your person comes through and that your writing is on point. Okay, most people take several drafts to be able to get this going and to a place that feels polished. Last couple things, some do's I want to highlight is asking people not from your circle to take a look at your work. Be honest and confident, that you are making sure that you have all the questions answered and that you stay in first person. These are all really important do's. The don'ts I just want to highlight is making sure that you are only using words that you really are clear on what they mean. Don't try and use stuff that sounds so fancy and so blustery that people don't understand you, or that you use them wrong. And that you also are staying away from sort of like vague references instead of being very specific about the things that have happened that have led you up to your application today. So now I have the distinct pleasure of handing the mic over to Dr. Tawana Wingfield, a fantastic faculty of ours who has a lot of expertise in admissions, and she's going to talk to you about recommendation letters. Take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Dr. Wingfield, and I am a former director of recruitment and admissions many, many years ago. So I'm just going to share with you some insight that I've shared with students in the past in this role, in that previous role, about your letters of recommendation. So for our program, as you can see, there are 3 required references, 2 of which needs to be academic and 1 a professional. We do understand that there are students who have, previously graduated. They may have been out of school for 5 years or more. So you could submit 3 professional references. Be sure that your references are uploaded to the application system by the deadline, as no paper copies will be submitted online. And make sure you look at that admissions checklist. Now, let's get into the meat of what references, what I would say are some successful tips to getting a strong letter of reference, a strong yet critical letter of reference. So when you're thinking about a letter of reference, you want to select someone who knows your work, someone that is familiar with who you are, that you have a previous relationship with. You want to gather all of your materials from your resume, a draft of your essay, and I know that might be a little concerning, but as much information that you can give them so that, again, that they can write a strong yet critical reflection of who you are. But resume, draft of your essay, the recommendation form or outline of the questions that the school is looking for, and then the submission guidelines. I can't tell you how many times that I've worked with students in the past and they didn't follow this particular outline, and we couldn't necessarily, well, in my past role, couldn't accept their references. You want to request a time to meet with the recommender. Don't do a cold request. And when I say a cold request, in the past, I've seen students contact faculty and say, it's like 2 weeks before the application is due. Dr. So-and-so, can you write this letter of reference? I need this letter. You're not giving that person, one, you're not honoring and respecting their time, and you're not giving them enough time to consider your request and enough time to review the materials in a way that will, again, get you a strong letter of support. And so arrange a time to meet with that recommender. Obviously, it would be over the phone or Zoom. Discuss what your intentions are about applying to graduate school, and then suggest a couple of dates and times that you would be available to meet, and give them opportunity to tell you whether or not they can meet with you at said time. During that time that you meet with them, obviously thank them for their time and go through the materials with them and present to them who you are. And so you really want to identify, again, persons who know your work. In the past, I've seen students that have identified recommenders, and letters of reference that I've seen come across my desk have been at most 3, perhaps 5 sentences that didn't really tell us anything and did not speak to the questions that are on those references. And so quite naturally, they didn't receive a high enough rating. I'm sure it's probably the same here at CSUN, as this was at another institution, but again, I'm just kind of sharing some pearls of knowledge with you on how to get a strong letter of support from them. In the past, I've always looked at references that speak to the student's strengths, but also identifies areas of growth. And it's okay, because again, you are learning. And if you knew everything, you wouldn't be applying to graduate school, right? And so give that recommender an opportunity to share with you your areas of growth, but also talk about those strengths, because we want to see a whole person. We want to see who you are when you have worked really hard, and then some areas that could be an area of growth, and then how they foresee you being successful. So I don't want to belabor this point, but be very mindful of who you are asking to write a letter of support for you. Give them enough time to consider your request. And if they decline, again, thank them for their time and go back to the drawing board and find someone else. But be very mindful of who you're asking to write letters of support on your behalf, because, some people may have a really good sense of who you are, others may not, and your letter isn't going to be as strong as you like. So that's about all that I could share with you right now in terms of letters of support. The letters are just as important as the essay, along with everything else that you submit with your materials. And so be mindful of that. Make sure you can also request a copy of that reference. Make sure that the recommender has the correct school's information. Make sure they address it to at the admissions committee, I could, a pet peeve of mine was when I would see to whom it may concern. It's just like, do your work. Like, so addressing those letters to the admissions committee or the admissions director or whomever, but, you know, try and make it as personable as possible and give them all the information that they need, again, to write a strong letter of support for you. So those are my tips. I wish all of you the very best as you embark on this endeavor of applying to CSUN's MSW program. It's an exciting period of time, and take heed to what people share with you tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Wingfield. So that is our presentation in terms of our webinar portion of the process for your personal statement and for your letters of recommendation. Any of your individual questions that you have, you're going to be able to have answered. We're now going to put everybody into those breakout groups. You will be randomly assigned with a faculty who will be able to talk to you, and your mic should open for you. We wish you the very best of luck and really appreciate you joining us tonight. Have a great night and best of luck. And please note that the MSW contact is on this last slide for you, but you know where to find us. Thank you so much all. Facilitators, thank you for being here. Have a good night.
I think it's going.
Stop the recording.